Let's start with the Tory leadership race. I guess the easiest thing to say about this is who is not running. One person who might well be running is Mel Stride. Let's hear what he had to say.
It's something I'm considering. A number of colleagues have approached me and suggested that I might do that. We don't yet, of course, know what the actual rules of the process will be, and I'll want to wait to see that before I take a final decision, but it's certainly a possibility.
Well, there you go. The nation is transfixed.
I mean,
Charlotte
bless his
Ivers.
socks.
He's currently considering.
He is. Yeah, and you know what? Maybe. I don't know. Well, can I pitch something to you?
Yes.
You've got until 7 p.m. today to join the Conservative Party to have a say in this election. I think they're below 100,000 members at the moment. If you want actual power in the country, given, the Conservatives do tend to get back into government eventually, and when they do, they stick around. Is this possibly the most powerful thing you, as a random citizen, could do in terms of multiplying your vote?
Yeah, and why aren't the Tories putting out massive ads on Facebook to get people to sign up, have a say in who the next Prime Minister will be?
I mean, it would have been better to do it when they were
quid.
actually in power, but, take the opportunity now, just chill out for a few years, and then,
At the current rate of decomposition among the Conservative Party's membership, I mean, in 5 years' time, there may actually not be any.
So it could just be you left.
So
one
you
vote
may
to
be the
decide the next
one-
and you give it to Mel Stride.
There was a rather cruel story saying that 1 in 6 Tory voters will be dead by the next election.
I mean, unfortunately, if you speak to people who canvassed for the Conservative Party at this election, they were often going to bungalows and finding that what had previously been a solid Tory bungalow was no longer.
What? Because the person had died?
Yes.
Well, at least we didn't have candidates who died and we didn't know about, like Reform.
That is worse. Yes.
So, I mean, let's be serious for a minute. I mean, who is going to be? Who are your tips for who might become the Tory leader? I mean, we've got Kemi Badenoch probably starts as the favourite because she's been sort of touted for so long. We've got the sort of has-beens. A bit rude of me to say that. Dame Priti Patel kind of had her moment, but I think the inside track is with Robert Jenrick, who's been kind of manoeuvring his way up the pile, and apparently in a recent poll of members is nudging ahead.
Yeah, Robert Jenrick's stolen all of Priti Patel's people, hasn't he? And Suella Braverman's people as well. So, again, as an outside bet, that's not an unreasonable shout. I sort of wonder whether the right all steal each other's votes, and that damages Kemi Badenoch, as you say, the front runner, and then you get Tom Tugendhat coming through on the left. But that relies on the right not getting organised, and they very much could do. So, I don't know, it's pretty early. They're going to be at it for a long slog, aren't they? They're only going to choose their leader just after the party conference, so we got a couple of months for everyone to fight it out.
They're going to have the four last standing will pitch to the Tory conference, and then the MPs will then have a further whittling down. But I've never seen the point of Tom Tugendhat. How does he even get considered to be a leadership candidate?
The very strange thing about Tom Tugendhat, who is, by all accounts, a lovely man, is that he could have been a cabinet minister in any government for any party at any point in the last 150 years.
Yes.
I mean, which...
He's sort of Chris Patten-esque.
A sort of a bland competence.
Yeah.
The thing that people familiar with the thinking of of CCHQ-ish types have told me about this race is that they think the longer it goes on, the less chance of a, quote, headbanger, end quote, getting in. Now, the people who have decided to make this campaign very long are the people who ran Rishi Sunak's campaigns for both the general election and his leadership campaign. And in both cases, he failed utterly spectacularly. So I do worry slightly if the campaign gurus are thinking that this is how you stop a headbanger getting in, this is probably going to have the opposite effect.
Well, we are going to have to avoid a headbanger, in my opinion. I mean, it strikes me the bizarre thing about the Tory party is they're all looking over their shoulder at Reform when right under their noses are 72 Liberal Democrat MPs waving and saying, guess whose seats we took, including my old seat.
That is very true. And they're now in some of the most affluent seats in the country. Lib Dems, in many cases, reasonably left-wing when it comes to tax and spend. They have to decide whether they're going to back Labour on something like tax on private schools, for example, which is going to be very controversial in some of those lovely leafy parts of the south of England. So, yeah, those seats could be ripe for the taking with the right Conservative Party. Do you know we've been banned from saying the word leafy in the paper? Too much of a cliche. I found this out the other day. I hadn't tried to use it,
I thought
but
there
I
was
used it just
some
now.
kind of woke connotation.
No, it's just,
It's just-
find something better to say
just
about
lazy.
sorry. It's lazy. It's lazy.
I've definitely used it.
There we go. Maybe you were the final straw.
But I mean, have you both did you both go to journalism school?
No.
Absolutely not, no.
Oh.
Good God.
Oh, what happened to the skills agenda? Because
We don't have any of those.
presumably
Skills.
one is taught that you always have to put somebody's age, and you always have to put the value of their house.
That's certainly the Daily Mail. They love the value of the house.
Yeah.
What did their parents do for a living? That's a big one. Everyone wants to know what people's parents did for a living. Where did they grow up? These are all the big things. There's the famous journalism test, isn't there? Where a man is out walking his dog and, he sees a murder and you're interviewing the man about the murder. And if you don't put the name of his dog in the top paragraph, then you fail the exam entirely.
That is absolutely brilliant. So the breaking news this hour is that the government is not renewing the contract for the Bibby Stockholm. That, of course, was the highly controversial barge. It was really a floating block of flats. The government contracted it, immediately found it was full of Legionnaire's disease. I think at least 2 asylum seekers very sadly committed suicide who were there. This will be a popular policy, I would imagine, wouldn't you, Will?
Yes and no. I mean, in the times I've reported on asylum hotels, which I've done a few times.
You had a big piece this Sunday about it. Or somebody.
No, there was a wonderful investigation into where the money, how the money sort of works with asylum hotels. But my whenever I spoke to people by some sort of disused RAF airfield in Essex, they were very upset that 2,000 asylum seekers were living next door to them.
Yeah.
And it did just come to symbolise the entire sort of failure of the last government with this.
That is the problem. If you build accommodation for asylum seekers, there isn't a single community in the country that is going to actively want to have that built, regardless of where the land is, disused military land, whatever. They're just not going to want to have it.
Yeah. And I think what Labour are doing by effectively granting amnesty is at this sort of late stage, and with the amount of cruelty and sort of tragedy we've seen in places like Calais, I think this is probably the best thing for them to do, to sort the backlog out.
I mean, I said at the top of the programme that as the government, the government has kind of free hits on the last government for about 2 years. But at some point, it's good that somebody is going to have to work out a plan that deals with this issue, because it does resonate with the public. It's no good saying it's a small proportion of the overall levels of immigration. And as Will said there, the public will see the processing of claims, which might be a sensible and cost-effective solution, as effectively granting people an amnesty. And the Tories, James Cleverly, one of the leadership candidates, former Home Secretary, is clearly going to bang on about how the government is sending signals to people coming over on boats and other asylum seekers.
That's true. And I don't think Labour have given quite enough of a sense of what it is they intend to do to stop people from coming over. But I do think getting rid of the backlog of people who are already over here is probably an incredibly good idea, because it will mean people are processed. They may be sent back. It's probably unlikely in many cases they'll be sent back, but they will be able to work and they will be able to, rent privately. They will be able to actually participate in society. Whereas I get the sense from some of the conversations I've had around these asylum hotels and similar, what people aren't liking is seeing groups of young men just sort of loitering around on the street smoking, not really doing anything. Well, this could be a pretty good solution to that as an immediate problem, which I do think is making a lot of communities feel sort of very miserable about the way their seafront or their high streets is at the moment.
Yeah, exactly. But I just don't understand. The trouble is that it will be depicted as giving a green light to people who want to come over illegally. That's the trouble.
Well, I think
I don't see how any government can send people back. It just never seems to happen.
I think what will happen in the next 5 years, if you allow me a prediction, is that
I do allow you.
Thank you, Ed. I think European governments will start to do schemes like Rwanda, and I think they'll probably do them a lot more efficiently than the last government did. And I think then that may give Labour permission.
Yes, I think you could well be right, and certainly there is no way forward on this, in my view, unless you get European cooperation across the European Union and other countries